Hey, there we go. Now it's working. Yeah, something's up with my computer sometimes. I don't know what happens to it, but sometimes if I leave it on too long, it just starts dropping frames. I think there may have been something wrong with Steam. Something might have been opened incorrectly on it, and it just didn't work. And that's why I was getting a shitload of drops yesterday too. Wait a minute. Oh, whoops. That's my Switch. That's not the game. Okay. Anyway, there we go. I'm here. Gonna do a quick sound check, and then we'll get started. Yeah, I went live a few minutes ago, and I was dropping so many frames, I had to give it up. Hold on. Anyway, there we go. I'm here. Wow, you can't hear the music at all. And then we'll get started. Yeah, I went live a few minutes ago. Oh, I have the thing cranked way down. That's why. Okay, hold on. There we go. Anyway, there we go. I'm here. Oh, you can't hear the music at all. All right, hold on. Yeah, I went live a few minutes ago. Oh, I have the thing cranked way down. That's why. Okay, hold on. There we go. Anyway, there we go. Okay. Sounds good now. Sorry about that. Audio editing is a mess with this because the Switch is just so different. Anything that goes through the Elgato is just not working right. Like it hasn't done that in a while. Like it hasn't worked right in a while. I really wonder if phones have delays on Twitch. Well, my phone is purposely set to be delayed because I have the mini player on it. So like if I minimize the Twitch app, the screen still stays up and I can still watch it. The downside to that is that it has increased latency, so it has it purposely delays it so I could kind of go back and forth seamlessly. But yeah, anyway, sorry about that. I'm here now. It has been a fun weekend of Legos and Pokemon cards and other fun stuff, I guess. It is now time to return to Ace Attorney and hopefully finish it this week. I don't quite know what I'm going to do once this is done, because I'm not going to do Resolve just yet. Just happy you could sleep now. Like I said, I'm only doing adventures right now. Resolve I'll be doing at some point before the end of the year, but not right now. I need a break after all this reading I've been doing. So adventures is going to be the focus. Regarding future streams, I said I didn't buy it, but I ended up putting in an order for No More Heroes 3, so that might be pretty soon too. As well as the new WarioWare, which will also be streamed when that comes out in September. I know there's a big event happening next week with Twitch regarding taking activism. I've never realized how close those words are to each other. I know that we're having sort of a Twitch blackout next week on the 1st. I will participate in that. Since I stream at night, I'm probably going to be not streaming like the 31st and the 1st, just to be safe. Assuming that it doesn't go any longer than that. What I might do, though, is if I can access, or if I have the bandwidth to stream, then I might just record stuff off stream and upload it to YouTube directly. And then point people to it when I come back to streaming afterwards. But we'll see. I don't want to give up playing through games because I feel like this is like the only way I get to do it anymore, but I'll take one for the team if it means stopping all this bullshit that's happening on Twitch right now. Anyway, last time, we interrogated people at the Japanese guy's home, his lodgings. We didn't find out too much. Decided to defend him anyway, and here we are. And now we're talking to the two witnesses who saw the apparent stabbing from the other day.
Hold it!
No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat? Did I change my tags accordingly? Yes, I did. And wow, I am dropping no frames. So yeah, I think my computer just had something wrong with it, and I think it might have had to do with Steam, because when I tried shutting it down, there was like a Steam event for the Vine Sauce charity stream that was like refusing to let my computer shut down. Still chilling with 4.3k birdseed. Yeah, I really need to find a new way to use... I need to find a new use for them. The other thing is that, I might raise the... I mean, the voice acting thing I might raise the price of, but only if more people came by. Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I think you could probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you? I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling? Well, oh, I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station, we were. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy. Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes. Can't remember the accent I was giving her. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir. Yes, although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. It's the noble founding principles of the force written on it, as a reminder to all of us policemen in our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Well, my accent's going all over the place there. Sir! Sir! And for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to heal to feel safe and secure. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Also, I gotta move this over a little bit. Marks on his face are what happens to the early napper at the sleepover, or as my friend group calls it. Oh god. I'm not reading that word out loud. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold. If a little over the top, perhaps? And then, kindly describe what happened next. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. Hold it! Two silhouettes? Lose brain cells when you're together as a friend group. That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up the Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim is pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume. How come that line was able to be skipped? Wait, have I read this all before? And you're certain at the time that there was nobody else nearby? Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there were streetlights on Briar Road, you see? There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? Well, oh, yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. Briar Road is dead straight, and you can see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you just said? Yes, sir. As a cop who spends all day every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. As I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Did I already pressed every statement, though? I didn't think I did that. They're still maintaining that there's no one else around other than the victim starting it. It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, since not Mr. Natsume did it, he fled the scene all too convincingly. Okay, I didn't read this yet. Scattered something? What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling? Well, oh, yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see. Old books. You saw, the culprit dropped a number of them, and around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print. That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed. Hold it! Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dock without question, sir. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the tout mouth, the snub nose. Everything. Any more insults you want to throw in? That's right, he looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away. I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. Half racist? No, that was full-ass racist. May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. So please, believe it less. Now please, continue. Yes, sir. Ooh, this bottle of Arnold Palmer is really good. Way better than some of the other bottles I've had. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box. Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I'm the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? Well, oh, yes, that's right. I asked Miss Beat to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see? Told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under, so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know? And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens. Oh, please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it. What? No. Oh, no, it's really not that at all. My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. About what books the man that dropped. I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is? That will do, Mrs. Beat. No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will. I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please, put your husband's fist down. But perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you? She's giving herself away. Yeah, kinda. Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the crime scene.
Hold it!
Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question. After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rolly. I keep switching between, like, slightly British and slightly, like, New York. And what was your husband doing at the time? Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know? Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Mrs. Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with your tales of powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was The Picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other, and What's Its Yearnings. Then there was, A Meal for Someone, and the last one was definitely The Gummies something. You see? Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory. Oh well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure. There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean to the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have to answer... Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to. He pulled out his gun. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. Blong, blong, blong.
Objection!
That's pretty easy. I went for drawing my Glock at a range, but not in court. So you're saying that there were 4 books? That's right, I remember all of them. Picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's Its Yearnings, A Meal for Someone, and The Gummies something. I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But there's a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. Oh no, what flaw? Simply that, at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. What? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, yeah, dun dun dun, there are only 3 books. But, no, that can't be. I saw them. Oh, I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me. Sorry? It's that big old lump of a dead body. The lady's so large her corpse is blocking the view of the 4th book, that's all. Let's at least try to remember what the poor woman isn't even dead, even if we're insulting her size. No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But Mr. Natsume could not possibly have dropped the 4 books you described. Why not? Fascinating. And from your assured tone, something you can readily substantiate with evidence, I presume. Evidence. Counsel, you will present evidence to substantiate your claim or withdraw it. What proof do you have that the accused did not drop the 4 books?
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in the form of this bookshop receipt. From your books... Yes, this receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you could see, only 3 books are listed. No! Therefore, Mr. Natsume would have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime. Which means that your powers of observation, madam, cannot be relied upon. Huh? So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. No! Like I was clearly pointing at Van Zeeks and not the defendant. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? Oh look, I have another bottle of alcohol. I'm going to kill someone in the gallery with it. What cannot be denied is that these two witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. Ah! So you've striven to avert attention from that by the dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? Ah! Sees right through me. But your plan is somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony, in every respect. Oh. You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. Quite right, only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say... Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. I don't believe it. Why is that book all mangled? It's missing a piece of it. It's the 4th book. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Order, order. There, you see? Look at that. Look. Yeah. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles are once again, if you please. Oh, yes, of course. The picture of the Monsieur somebody or other. Picture of Monsieur Lecoq. What's its yearnings? Canterbury yearnings. A meal for someone. A meal for Gaboriau, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. He only bought 3, though, yeah. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional. Those are the 3 he bought. The one in her hand he did not buy. Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But... there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book. I wonder, what became of that 4th book? Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. You will submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. Second photograph of the scene, taken by policemen just after the incident, specifically shows the victim's hand. 4th book, entitled Lion's Pride, discovered in the victim's hand at the scene. The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. What? You seemed surprised, my learned friend, but your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused's lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of my witness's prowess, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile? Walked right into this, didn't I? You see, everything we said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. You're already married. So perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course. So there's a chunk of the book missing. Is there any difference between these shots? Yeah, her arm's not sticking out in that shot. Is her arm, like, supposed to be... What? Oh, maybe it is. Alright, never mind. Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride. I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all, so it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? That's strange. I think I have heard of a book by that name before, and very recently, too. It's a title I recognize, too, Mr. Naruhodo. No, chunk missing's from the back. See? Wait a minute, it's burnt! What? Oh, look at this! The book has been badly burnt! You're right, you'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. A book recently damaged by fire. Why does that raise a red flag with me? Back cover is badly burnt. Very interesting. This might somehow tie into these two people, and she's on the jury, so that's interesting. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryunosuke, think! What do you do now?
Objection!
I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it's over. Oh my god! That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh! Fuck. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential, and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruhodo. One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam. Go ahead, Mrs. Sato, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished. I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants a further examination, do you? Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So you must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. Yes, I understand, and thank you, Mrs. Sato. This is it. Sadov-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we could see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
Mukuro Ikosaba. The fourth book. We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's... Excuse me. Pursuing the matter further would be a Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as well as, you know. Hey, Evan! How you doing? Thank you for the raid. Sorry, I turned alerts off completely. Nothing against you or anything. I have to, you know how it's been lately. Hey, how's everyone doing? Thank you for following, Benja. You're discussing RPG? Nice! Oh, thank you. Thank you, Limons and Benja. And Donaro. Hello. Hi, everyone. Were you streaming? Ah! Hey. Why hybrid action RPGs plus turns is bad. And FF9. Oh, you're playing FF9? Nice. I've never played it, but I've watched a full playthrough of it, and it is a delightful game. It is a delightful game. Hybrid action RPG plus turns. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Like, I can't imagine that. Yeah, well, actually, I don't know. What game specifically would you be thinking about when you mention that? FF7 Remake is that? Oh. I didn't mind FF7 Remake. I didn't think it wasn't really turn-based. It's just that you had a meter for whenever you could use magic. I think it worked, but I don't know. I guess it's not everyone's cup of tea. Also, classic mode being stuck on easy in the original version was kind of weird. Talk about the gameplay of FF7 Remake and FF15. Cool. Yes, I'm afraid, Counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, Counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear? How that hybrid thing is sometimes kind of clunky. Yeah, I mean, Remake is definitely not the best game in that genre, but it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. As someone who enjoyed the original FF7, I definitely enjoyed Remake as well. I want to play Intergrade. Sorry, one sec. BRB. Nothing against the story. Sometimes the gameplay is ultra weird. Story and visuals are both the main. Yeah. Need to go sleep. Alright, thank you for stopping by, Benja. Thank you. Thank you for the follow. The hybrid thing is... Yeah, I mean, it's not the most... It's not the most graceful game, but I've got to say, I didn't have any problems with the battle system. I enjoyed it. I definitely had trouble just because the game was hard. That's just, you pay channel points to have me say something in a voice. I don't know. I haven't been doing very well with it, and my throat's been getting sore lately. I might raise the price on it. I have a certain viewer who's been spamming it lately. Not that I mind particularly because it's not busy, but it's been happening a lot. Oh, yes, my lord. It's, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence. Welcome back. No, my throat's not sore anymore. It was sore last week, but... I mean, if you want me to say something, go ahead. Which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right. So, Counsel, precisely where's the vital clue to this case, which this fourth book conceals? Like, I'm gonna be honest, there was very little about FF7 Remake that I had gripes with. The battle system, I definitely... Once I got used to it, I enjoyed it. I would say the biggest gripe I had with Final Fantasy VII is getting stuck in the grate in the Shinra... Shinra? Wow, in Shinra Tower. And having to restart and lose like 30 minutes of progress. Also, I was still using Streamlabs OBS at that point, and I lost half of a stream of it, and that annoyed me. But that's not the game. Damn. The high man would be... Oh, no, I mean, the whole point... Okay, so the point of squawk acting... So, I'm a voice actor, kinda. I mean, I'm an amateur voice actor. I'm a hobbyist, mostly. I would like to do it more, but it's like... I just... my life's not in a good spot to pursue it full-time. You can use it to, like... make me do an imitation or something if I know what it is, but yeah, I mean that's kind of it. Oh, you're a voice actor too? Nice. Badly damaged by fire here, so much that you couldn't read it at all anymore. That's right, such a pity. And do you see that flaking edges of the burnt pages, Mr. Naruhodo? I think that's a sure sign the damage occurred relatively recently. Yes, a book damaged in a recent fire. That definitely rings a bell.
Got it!
That's cool. I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good gracious! It's been burnt to a crisp! So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Oh! Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day? Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? You did the worst voice acting on your stream. To be fair, when I'm doing a voice-acted stream, it generally doesn't go well just because I'm trying to do everyone's voice. When I'm actually doing auditions, it's way, way more focused. A charred book. There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered? Shop that sold it, its owner, its content. Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals startling... Excuse me. The burn on this back... The burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth. About the book's owner. So, Donaro, do you pursue it professionally? Do you audition for projects? Have you been in anything? Am I alright today? Work got on my nerves, but I'm okay. It's just another case of I just have to survive this week. That's my life, surviving 5/7 of my week and then enjoying 2 of them. I beg your pardon? But you already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor, after all. It's obviously hers. Seems like your brain keeps toasting out. No, I'm trying to split my attention here between people and the stream. I'm not the best entertainer, remember that. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However... Also, when I flub a line, that's common for me to do that multiple times. As to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly... Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim that the owner of this book burnt is? See, I did it there. I just said book burnt instead of burnt book. Is it... Do I say John or Joan? She's in attendance today as a member of the jury. I guess Joan, since she's here.
Take that!
The answer is that book belongs to the couple who owns the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. The landlords. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but... Of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this very courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself. Oh my goodness! Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his... maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house? I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused's landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
Objection! This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. I'm not rereading old dialogue. I'm just gonna beep through it while I drink. Oh, there he goes. He lost his favorite book. Oh, that face. That was some face he was making there. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, the very same title that the subject of this the very same title that's the subject of this debate. Oh, dear me.
Objection!
This is risible. All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And the entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garadeb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garadeb, even amid the flames. Oh, how awful! I couldn't imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rolly? Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. Are you telling me... Okay. She threw the book out the window and it somehow landed in her hand? I started hurling things at him. Under heavy enemy fire, incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him? Goodness gracious, are you suggesting the book was thrown through a window and coincidentally landed at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of the Garadeb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garadeb household. But it is not inconceivable that the window was open at the time and... not even remotely. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate that the scenario is in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garadeb's wife? I believe it's a possibility, my lord. But how does this change anything? Also, I just realized their scarves are connected. That's quite enough. Well, I hope that everyone can see for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward. Really? Leaving our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight. Honestly? Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name. No, I assure you, that was never my intention. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable. Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now, listening to this Nipponese spouting his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache, and he ran away from the scene, too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you? Makes sense to me. Sorry, what's that? Well, it would appear the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks? Let's get crunk. In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. You're the one who kept trying to end it. No, wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... If books are your predilection, my learned friends, study them on your own time. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time? In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! 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 Guilty!
Shit again, every case. It's the same thing. Thank you for that unambiguous response. It's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mrs. Sato? Have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve? Your perfectly very well possible theory thrown out because it's too cold, yeah. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. To be continued, oh shit. Okay. Game looks good. It is good. It's really fun. It's Ace Attorney, so it's like you know what you're getting into. I've considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury, and decided fuck no, this case needs to end, and I determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. If the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dearie me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. I'm to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago, and it gave me the sneezes. Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all the members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Got your salt and vinegar, that's nice. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it could be argued any other way. That means I'm afraid that during this summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard. Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it, otherwise this really will be the end of the... And thanks for the help, nerd. Yeah. Otherwise this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure, then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. How many Slim Jims do I have? Jackling, excuse me. 3, 6, 8... 9, 10, 11, 12, 14? Wait, no. Did I miscount? I want to see how much I have to ration out here. 10 and 4, so 14. To last me until the end of September. So that means if I have 10 next month, I can have 1, 2, 3... Oh, I can have 1 every other day. Nice. For the rest of this month. I feel like it. I don't plan out how I'm going to eat my Jack Links, but I also limit myself to a box of 20 every 2 months. Just so I'm not, binging on them. Only eat Slim Jims unless it's jerky. I'm loyal. I like Jack Links. Jack Links Spicy is pretty good. I get like a bulk box of 20 every couple months, and then I ration it out. I presume you are prepared, counsel? Oh, yes, my lord. All right, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. Ow. Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid, or should I say, Mrs. Garadeb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far. Whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mr. Garadeb and how she reacts. Even to the things other people say.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? The flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. Oh, I can actually go to the other people now. You couldn't do that in the previous ones, I think. Or there was no need to. Well, he brought it upon himself. It's playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing. Yes, Napalm was very loving, thanks to you. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garadeb. Never you mind that. The point is, we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. I won't have any more of these suggestions that it has anything whatsoever to do with this crime. Right, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mr. Garadeb's relentless onslaughts. It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is. I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble.
Hold it!
You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Well, him and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already. I'm a day laborer, aren't I? She's really trying to melt your heart, isn't she? Ah, yes, when my girlfriend and I are fighting, we throw flaming books at each other. I don't think I've ever had a fight with my girlfriend. We've had disagreements, but I've never, like, yelled at her. Thank God. I don't want to. It's never gotten to the point where we're just like, we can't talk for a while. We just kind of agree to disagree on most things, thankfully. Thankfully, it's never been anything serious, so... I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames River tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus ain't one to mess about, you know? She can be fierce, believe you me. I'm just over where we're going to eat, yeah. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, do you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful. I wonder if Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Mr. Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about the fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You could put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship? Of course not. It was an angel cake to celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but the candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place was filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like a devil worship to me. And the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how'd you catch a cold from a fire? What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows. Biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in a hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to... Yes, that's the whole point of this! Why are we recapping this? Might as well put a neon sign in the right answer. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit.
Hold it!
But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point in even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable... Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I'm a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. There we go. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten about by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see? Modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite one or two minor puzzlements, I do declare that this man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. Why am I getting Steam notifications? Why did it log me into Steam? I thought I went off of that, and that's why I was dropping frames earlier. Which I'm not doing now. So I'd only be too happy to consider a new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you admitted rationale there. Rational, excuse me.
Hold it!
As we now know, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does that make? There's every possibility the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. It's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it? I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. There's some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed I might reconsider. Your house fires are dire, you have to open the windows to clear the smoke. That's when the chills get you. See?
Objection!
These 2 jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's with that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3, do you see... Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my!
Oh, my hat!
Excuse me!
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Just drink straight from the tea kettle, damn it. Mrs. Garadeb. Oh dear me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? Well, I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course. I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garridip's formal statement. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it was true.
Hold it!
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garridip told us he'd been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw that at your husband? The copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading. I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man, I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up things and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it.
Excuse me!
What is it, juror number 5? You know something. I've remembered what it was. That memory I'd blocked out. I was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back. Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garridip, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, like. Put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? The wife was cutting up some chickens at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did, about an inch deep. No words. Just terror. I could smell it then, you know, the god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Hey, Sour Cream. How you doing tonight? Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking I wasn't... No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. That kitchen knife really brought that home to me.
Hold it!
Your wife really do a kitchen knife at you? That's right, she was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It all started that smile. It started with that smile she threw me when we were courting. And since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. Your wife must be even beefier than you. And things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really. I'm so happy for you. You want to know what I think? I think this whole idea of ladies first that we're so obsessed with in this country was thought up by some clever lads who've been tossed in the Thames a few too many times with their wives. That's a very interesting theory. What the fuck? What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror's statement just sounds like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. A weapon I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. Woman in rage will hurl almost anything at you. Roses are red. I hunger for meat. This witness is empty, so yeet. God damn it. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Oh, the kitchen knife. Oh no.
Objection!
We're making a very bad implication here. Those two statements clearly have a deep, significant connection. The way they word that makes it sound like you pick a wrong answer. They purposely did that to make it make you swerve on it. Good grief. You mean they don't contradict with each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. Well, I've already changed all their explanations at this point. You missed quite a bit. What are you talking about? Just noticed something. That is a really crusty-looking window in the background. We've demonstrated the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garadeb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garadeb household to the street below. What's that now? After all, Mrs. Garadeb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that, ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you English Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You're not that late. You're an hour late. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What is it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadeb household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadeb. Well, what now? I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Good Lord, Counsel, what on the earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man. Also, what happened to the second murder? The one where the guy was stabbed in the streets. That's this. It was a girl. This also isn't the second murder. This is the 4th of the game. Yeah, it was this woman. Oops. Something argument. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garadeb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, through which a book sailed to land at a certain crime scene. You can't seriously believe that that book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Huh, even my missus ain't got an aim like that. Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my. Mrs. Garrideb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Also, this isn't technically a murder. The woman is apparently still alive. She's just in the hospital in a coma. Dude. My lord. I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but... I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman? I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. Attempted murder, assault, and battery, yeah. We did it. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against now 4 calling innocent. Why did the old man not change his stance? Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zieks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. We still have the prosecutors to worry about. Damn it, sour cream. Oh, that wasn't... Shit. Whatever. Where's that objection? It's coming, don't worry. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. You ever have a drink that, like, tastes one way when you start drinking it, but when you get to the end, it's, like, different? What follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zieks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke, to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrideb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means the distance from the Garrideb's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards. Let me see, 15 yards. That's around 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. And as you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, rightly noted as having portentous significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards, to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near-identical trajectory to plunge in the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. There's nothing I could say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Mrs. Sato. Someone clearly never watched YouTube trick shots, yeah. Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. Sorry, maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense. Yes, go ahead. I just burped really loudly and muted myself. The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Miss Joan Garadeb, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination. Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? How delightfully unorthodox. Order, order, order! Well, this is highly irregular. Hey, what I just said. It's unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
And he just killed someone again. And unnecessary. Jesus fuck, that's why your country is getting poor. You're wasting lots of expensive glass, yeah. Lord Van Zeeks. There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth to it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have been flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witness? Says. I also want to assume for littering. Yes, sir! Constable Royally Beat, reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Very well, then. I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir! Constable Beetle's report. Sorry, Beat. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. Believe me, I'm a London Bobby, good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garadeb household are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. Well, that's quite interesting. Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows. That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Oh, yes, sorry about that. Yeah, the officer's so half asleep you could pour him an autopsy on him. She said he was face first in snow sleeping, yeah. Oh, yes, I'm sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. Sorry, but... what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you... you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's room. Alright, I'll try. Objection, his sleepy ass is too tired to be on this trial. I know what you want. I know what you actually want me to do. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see? glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it from opening? This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. Just let him be guilty, jeez. No. You see the problem then? Good. Your education in windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered. Something we've discounted already. That can't be... Did you see that, Rolly? The young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh, yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination. Get a bloody room, bish. My lord. Oh, good, another desperate situation. This game really just goes to extremes. Like, there's really never any, like, okay, let's break down the argument. It's either like, okay, you're in trouble or you're winning.
Hold it!
How can you say for certain? Very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all its policemen for... Excuse me. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all its policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London and uphold the peace of the common man. That's what this job's all about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you what Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes and admittedly, "Sir!" Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb? Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time. Absolutely, sir. I will answer to the fullest of my ability, sir. That's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. Before I get into that, sir, just one thing. I want to throw a flaming book at people all my life. I'd very much like you and your countrymen to understand that great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. And sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. Constable Beat's warrant card has been entered into the court record.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They just did, well, a little bit of air to the house, you see? So they're restricted as to how much they open. Small folding wallet that identifies London Bobbies and contains the rules of which conduct which they must adhere. Policemen will strive to preserve peace within his allotted beat. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Police regulations. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. All crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinged casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. What would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat? Sorry? You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Personally, I love this game. It shows the difficulties of Japanese people in their history of discrimination. Yeah, I mean, it's all surface level. Like, people just kind of slinging, like, you know, snide remarks at them. But it certainly is a realistic time capsule of the time of the, you know, of the period this takes place in. And I guess modern day too, because things haven't really changed, have they? Well, of course, I don't feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Constable Beat. Whoops. Whoops. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Stop. Constable Beat. Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with the interviewing the occupants of the Garrideb household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, sir? That really was cutting it close, then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrideb household is on your beat, does that mean the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Garrideb's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of the Briar Road, we would have never been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all. Yeah, it's small, but it shows how people easily discriminate people for being different. Yeah. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. You know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure that we have the information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. Case files information has been updated in the court record. And now it's my turn, I think. Pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat, the border of which runs down the middle of Briar Road. Reporting Officer Rolly Beat. But how is, if it's on the other side of the road, how I was the reporting officer? Obviously, if anything has been thrown out the window, we would have seen it.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark. Hey, no problem. Thank you for stopping by, Donaru. I appreciate it. Come back and talk voice acting anytime. Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star. Sorry? Star that which will guide us to eternal happiness. Can it guide you to answer the question? If Lay Book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have been lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, that's what I would have said. 3 times at least. I don't think the lady did it, but we'll see. We'll see who actually did it. Of course, with that smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, you're trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you. Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. It certainly seems like they're telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. If they were looking at the sky, did they see the silhouettes? That's a good question.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right? That's right, yes. They see the murderer? They claim to, but I don't think they did. If it had been Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rolly told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I could swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garrideb household. They only said we saw the poor woman fall, they did not claim someone stabbed her. Well, I think before they said it. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hands of the victim? You shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that also just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we could see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived on the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Can I ask you something? Oh god, again? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I could tell. What? I wasn't really. I mean, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm the woman of my word, I am. I really don't ever remember suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you let me speak, won't you? She's gaslighting me. She's girl boss gaslighting the gatekeeping. Yes, Mrs. Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. There's a very loud mutter. I heard that! The Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's words counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't. Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though.
Hold it!
Mrs. Beat, nobody is questioning what you've told us. Would the book be dropped when she fell? Ugh. Maybe, but we're under the assumption that the book somehow landed in her hand across the hall across the street. I saw it, I did. That evening, I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction? Oh, yes. Well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross.
Excuse me.
Constable Beat, is there a problem? No, sir. No problem, sir. Yeah, you're about to strangle him. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembered that the same thing happened that evening, is all. You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly. The bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies and halfpennies that he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. Check the map. It doesn't list any stores other than Bourbon and Yore. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet roll he gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first. Or she's gonna pull an April May and go apeshit, maybe. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on? Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see? That's when I spotted my bouquet again, but the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment, but before I heard a voice calling me to the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. That's right, silly me. I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think of how it got there, I really can't. So the bouquet was somehow moved from the side of Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed. Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose roll he bought me. With that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh. Oops. Oh. Yes, that's it. That's the bouquet roll he bought me for our anniversary, with old bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Sus. Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, where did you come by this flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadeb household. In front of the Garadeb's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Can I have it back now, please? No, I think for good measure this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. A present for Patricia Beat from her husband, Rolly. The shock of seeing the stab victim caused Mrs. Beat to drop the rose where she stood. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief. Rest assured I shall do my very best not to forget, Miss Beat. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a... Wait. Huh? Why am I, Well, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you make of all this? Roses are red, bouquets are a bunch of roses. Please get a room after this courtroom closes. Yes. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along. But I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mrs. Garadeb was hiding something from us. But it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower. This is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before. Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3? Do dictionaries even exist in this time? Probably. Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out, learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example. It's very stylish paper the flower's wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. Ah, I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Ah, Sato-san, you do love your cakes. Interesting. Nothing incriminating on this. Looks like there's only 2 statements here. Nothing about the color of the rose or anything. Perhaps the investigator mistake the bouquet for the food he bought? What? Why? Okay, I actually don't know what I'm supposed to, I don't know what I'm supposed to find here. Huh. I'm kind of stumped here. I actually don't know, what to press here. I assume it's this statement because it was the one added in, but... Briar Road. Yeah, I'm stumped. I don't know what to pursue here. Maybe the book. I should have everything I need to make a accusation here, but actually, wait, hold on. Helped? In what way? Various members of the public were questioned in order to gather information about the case. That's right, sir. The sad truth is, we're all overworked. So even though it wasn't under the jurisdiction of my own beat, I obviously wanted to help. I see. Well, thank you. Oh, is it my turn now? So the case, okay, so I moved from one side of the Briar Road to the opposite. Dark Spot, like Garth Marenghi's Dark Spot, which is a British show. By the way, if you've never watched If you never watched Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, highly recommend it. Very, very funny show.
Objection!
That was the wrong thing. Location councils, nothing strikes me about it. Exactly. There's nothing striking about it. What does it just strike me as your propensity for the inane, however? I need to clear my head and come at this again from a different angle.
Objection!
There we go. It was the rose. It was just on the other statement. You claim, Constable Beat, that there was nothing to report in the 15 minutes or so you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be. What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager?
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rowley didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garadeb's book. Mr. Garadeb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife. Would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. So, Beat brought the body to the other side. And yet, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in the victim's hand. You know you fucked up when Susato pulls out the book. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard about Mrs. Beat's bouquet, should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street. Did Mr. Beat do that so that he didn't have to be the officer in charge of investigating it? He didn't want it to ruin his dinner, so he's like, oh fuck, I'll just move this body to the other side of the street. That's what's happening here. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rowley's done something wrong. Don't listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. Withering on about some bouquets and books. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh good, Mrs. Garadeb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garadeb. But deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it. For a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend. Who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Take that!
Rowley Beat. Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rowley Beat. It was you! What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense. My Rolly would never do something like that. There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London. Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police station to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped the bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well...
Objection!
First you make an accusation about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there's only one reason why anyone could commit such a reckless crime. To hide something. Poor couple. Not sorry for you, though. That's right. He's right. My husband and I just happened to be there. That's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make any sense. You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Consul, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What? Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? At the very start. We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everyone has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. I think I know exactly what happened now. What? I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel. So here's my theory. She threw the knife out the window. She threw the book out the window first. It landed on the ground, partially burnt. Olive Green went to pick it up. She grabbed it, and when she did, Joan threw the knife out the window. It landed in her back, knocked her unconscious, and she fell down with the knife. Then, Rolly Beat moved the body to the other side of the street in order to avoid having to adhere to Metropolitan Police Regulation number 1. Because any crimes that fall into the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered, a policeman will strive to preserve peace within his allotted beat. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. In other words, he would have been responsible for doing that, and he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to be late for dinner, his anniversary dinner. So, while he is guilty of tampering with the evidence, it's likely that Joan Garadeb accidentally stabbed the woman. I begin to wonder what the... Okay, yeah. If that's your assertion, and the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend, where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
Take that!
But that's on the opposite side of the road? I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Garrideb's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. Will you hurry up? Your headset is dying. He moved all the things shown in this print. The victim, herself, and the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook? The bouquet, I presume. Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously, which is why it was the only bouquet. Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position, on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rowley Beat. Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Rowley, it wasn't true, is it? What the lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream, a terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly! Order! 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 What on earth is the meaning of all this? Oh, Rowley, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it? It's not a corpse. Wishing the victim dead should be one, too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Town. Oh, I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything. I have a possible explanation. For why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman? And yet Lord Van Zeeks is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan. It makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding type of work in the world. For example, keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh, yes. It was our very first wedding anniversary. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? But just not one particular day I was looking forward to celebrate. Yeah. Mrs. Beat puts up a lot with being married to a Bobby like me. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha. Constable Beat. Is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said, it's all right. We never missed a beat. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious! Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done? Feel tiniest bit bad, it's micro, but still there. Yeah. It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what it meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of a crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, I just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Mearsham Street, and then... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Rolly. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street, to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought... Well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see? I beg your pardon? of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly would have never left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back from my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly, that was all my fault. I should have never dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total? Oh, 4 it was? Yes, sir. Definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garadip household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first went over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that what the victim was holding? Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. It was in the victim's hand when Mrs. Beat first went over to see what had happened. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it. I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zeeks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Yep, she leaned down to pick up the book, and then when the knife bounced off the window, it fell directly into her back and knocked her out. Meaning that Joan is probably not the murderer, but the assailant. Since there is no murder in this case, technically. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. Joe must have had the throwing arm for it to stab in. Possibly. Alright then, my love. Well, it also fell 3 stories. If it fell 3 stories blade down, it's possible it could have just pierced her back. It was a rather big knife, too. One last thing, Constable. Sir, let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson into your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Never again, sir? You mean to say? Leave, now. This trial is not over yet. Oh, sir! Well, quite startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire crime scene like that? Indeed, my lord, nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally... Excuse me, that the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could have committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being so presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zeeks, is this true? Very well. Name the person, if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated this crime.
Take that!
The defense would like to once again request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again, my assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, I mean, yeah, it is imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garadeb. Yeah, evidence does matter. I mean, the flower just blew this case wide open. A single flower. Me, oh dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garadeb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book out at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back. Have you really never laid eyes on it before? I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all, juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common or garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garadeb? Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought of that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. If you're going to have to prove to me that I threw the knife, if that's what you think. Come along now. Chop chop. Do your worst. That's what she said. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm going to have to testify? Juror number 4, as I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of what the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware. Oh, dearie me. So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garadeb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Lawyer. Witness, state your name and occupation. Yes, my name is Joan Garadeb. And I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid, or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam? Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh, dearie me. Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John. Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? I rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone. Oh, John. I presume you are Mr. Garadeb? Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant in the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living the quiet life, as it were. Fun fact, Joan and John are really generic names. John for a boyish name and Joan for a girlish name. Yep. The quiet life. Were you not endangered in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Ah, well, yes, quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of this British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events at your home at the time of the incident in question. No fucking Russian spy. I will allow that. I think the way you worded spy might have been offensive. So blocked it, sorry. Sir, at once. Witness testimony. Battle of Garadeb. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and got the window open. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Lawyers thick like Mother Russia. No, stop. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I noticed if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that badly thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though that this was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling for us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield you're just a gnat's whisker away from death at any moment. Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here? Well, I must say, I'm dubious this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows that such surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified to already. This may be a dead end. And Zeeks may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this one last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mr. Garadeb found the note, discovering her little... Mrs. Garadeb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide off the mark. Half of it was wide of the mark anyway. A likely story. These waters run very deep. And what transpired next after those multiple blows to the face?
Hold it!
The fire also spread to some of the items of furniture, didn't it? Mighty number of slaps go brr. The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine, really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need anything, you see. The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although that little mustache Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books. Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire? As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. It is most certainly not true of a Sasato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking of that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall, but I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see, some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, a sponge, and a napkin.
Jupiter.
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, sir? Headset died, have to watch on your phone for a bit. Mr. Garadeb. Don't shoot! Sorry, I beg your pardon? Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more than solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall. As made as a witch, the cup appeared out of nowhere and the serving platter disappeared. Ouch. The woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a hit directly. Ah, good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law. And she was pouring the stuff right into his pipe. Oh, dear me. We're so sorry, dear. What's she even doing with the teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would have never thrown such things at you, obviously. Well, take a look at this, then. How do you suppose this happened, huh? Your pipe, sir? Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see, your pipe was broken. It would have never been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now. Oh, you are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account. I have a pipe. I don't smoke, but I have a pipe. Just goes to accentuate my dadly features. You should see me when I in the winter when I wear my my sweater vest and khakis. I look like an old man. I love it. The defense believes Mr. Garadeb's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
Yeah, exactly. Just to have one. My girlfriend bought it for me. I also have like a paperboy cap, like a 1940s paperboy cap. This war veteran's words only tell us one thing: betray a fiery wife, and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. I don't want to know what ideas you're thinking of. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Well, I don't see why not. Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Mr. Garrideb's pipe apparently fell to the floor during a domestic dispute he had with his wife and broke. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Sasaro-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Well, thank you for that. Rebuttal, Mr. Garrideb. Now if we could return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? One of them is a drawing of you in a business suit with glasses having a pipe in your mouth while reading an upside-down newspaper. Okay, that is pretty funny. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I noticed if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. Looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garrideb's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garrideb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that or he can't afford to replace it. There's a small nick out of the bowl here. Look, it appears to have been made relatively recently. And see other little scrapes and dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Bandage. How does he still have the pipe? Well, he picked it up and repaired it, I guess. Yes, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye, though, because it's clearly new. Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. No, he's smoking it while it's in evidence. To be... yeah, I don't know. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. The small piece of metal looks like it might be the tip of a knife blade. It was stuck inside the bowl of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Smoking pipes looks interesting. Don't smoke. It's not good for you. Do not smoke. I just have it for show. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. There's just something niggling me, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Perhaps in that case, it would be wise to examine some other pieces of evidence again. Oh shit, we unlocked it. We unlocked the first thing. There it is. It's missing at the tip. Just the tip. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. You remember this? That's the tiny fragment of metal that we found inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Yes, and just maybe. Oh my! It's a perfect fit! Somehow I just knew it. Who would have thought that the tiny piece of metal we found in Mr. Garrideb's pipe would be a perfect fit for the missing tip of the knife from the victim's back? It's extraordinary, isn't it? Fills me with a sense of awe. It's surely proof that miracles really can happen. Yes, some more miraculous proof I couldn't ask for. Grandfather smoked and you hated the smoke. Fair enough. My knives around our place. You can't say I noticed if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think.
Objection!
No, I won't. I like smoke if it's an art or such. Fair enough. Mr. Garrideb, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? Or if it's for cosplay. Yeah. You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? Used to call me Dead-Eye Deb back in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Oh, he does, dearie me. It's rather wary being asked about every other letter and every other word. Geisha with the smoking pipe, yeah. You must D very dizzy. What is that, a tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap, is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the truth of this case, my lord. Oh god, even his ass is burnt. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well, then. Present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
Take that!
Or a Victorian woman with a large cigar. Or a crotchety businessman with, you know, like, hunched over, smoking a pipe, wearing a suit. Like one of those, like evil, kind of like businessmen type people. This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. With a burnt ass. If you look closely, you will see there's a small piece of the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blade sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave tips lodged in their victims' bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
Geisha and a Victorian lady versus mafias. That would be kind of cool. Cool movie premise. No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe. Good grief, Lord Van Zeeks. I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match. Good golly gosh. Write them down. You could use them for something later. Order. Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? So Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did that fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. So it hit the inside of the pipe, broke the tip, fell out the window, and landed in the back of the victim. Oh, dearie me. Sorcery. This is Ace Attorney! Really going for the dated references there, huh? During the argument between those two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garadeb flung this knife at her husband. Oh look, it's actually repaired in the image now. However, the knife missed Mr. Garadeb, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord. Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of this blade found its way inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1! And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out the open window. Ugh. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garadeb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh! No!
Objection!
Sip. A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it's just a theory. A courtroom theory! I'm sorry. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see... Boots. It's spoilt by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What? Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What is the inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... like so hot you could fry the RGG. The egg. Oh. That's right, you silly little man. Now, Joan, old thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no other possible way it could have planted itself in the victim's back. Wait, what? Am I missing something here? Order, order. Oh, alright, yeah, we know this. We know this already. We got this. We know exactly why. Quite right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen from her on up above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. Well, we already know why. She bent down to pick up the book. He's lost for words, look. I knew it. I never liked his theory in the first place. I don't know, though. What really did happen? It would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Mr. Sato, you mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all. And your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is in there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance between that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. No witnesses got sworn. Well, first off, it means I just need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. To be fair, this isn't American court, and also it's 1890. They probably didn't do swearing in at this point. Who knows? Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. We have heard the corner theme once in this entire game. In the first case. For a brief moment. What are you implying? Counsel? There's a piece of evidence in the court record that could explain this inconsistency. They had to do something of that nature. Oh, I'm sure they handled that beforehand. That could explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness. Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency. The final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is...
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. Yeah, there we go. Finally, 4 cases in and we've heard this a second time. The burnt book. Is that not Mr. Garadeb's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question. And the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all know now, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, and as part of this wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true. However, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. Yeah, the knife did indeed go yeet. In other words, the victim had already picked up the book of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now. Oh, dearie me. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadeb household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment, the young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw. Book went yeet too, yeah. Yes, Mrs. Garadeb. What do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it. But I suppose... she might have reached down and... picked up the book. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh, heavens! And when the woman reached down to pick up the fallen book, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Well, I never... Oddly convenient is what the Ace Attorney series is all about, Ham. Trust me, there are plenty of incidents that were oddly convenient. It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. Lucky that knife was missing its tip, yeah. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. What is with this game and accidents? This game and the second case, both an accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Homicide, but yeah. She's not dead. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that. There, old bean. Poor Mrs. Garadeb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear. It's all right, I know. I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry! Aw. Lord Van Zieks, what news of Mrs. Garadeb? She's been taken into the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could have easily been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. Yeah, exactly what you just said, Sour Cream. You almost worded it exactly. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful. This woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. So, Mr. Soseki Natsume... yes. I don't know, I don't remember what voice I gave him. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Soseki-san. His imagination has really got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should have never... Yeah, poor Mr. Crocker. I should have never dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between the two vampires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit had been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by this spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zieks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh! Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Hold on, Lord Van Dix did nothing. Not true. He did cooperate, at least, towards the end. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't expect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I say, I'll have a cork of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
I don't think it was a treaty they signed. I think it was an agreement. Very well, Mr. Sosuke Natsume, I hereby pronounce you unguilty. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord, sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh, yes, sir, of course. On my life, I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. You can sleep now, yeah? Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. I'll finish that in almost exactly 3 hours. 20th February, 3:17 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Oh, Locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course! Isn't there another Locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh, at last! I'm free! I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah! Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard to just say that, then? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault, after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that. Lovely, loyal Locum lawyer. Yes? I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down at me, laughing, "Look at the little hunchback." Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, you Locum lawyer gave me my gloom to boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. I could be your angel or your devil. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we're pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount on my friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No! Then my haste was in vain? Ah! It's you! Herlock Sholmes! Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. Uwu, I simply couldn't place that vicarious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault. Hairlock shows. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Ah. Had she been taken to the hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. Hello, darkness. You made the icon dark. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human, after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Soseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you are not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits, and now by the Reaper. Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will be all right, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya! Why me? With a perfectly executed Sasato takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Sasato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan? Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. I'm going to bed. I can't take any more Crocker on crack. Oh! It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I have visited universities, libraries, bookshops, and I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse? That's not it at all. The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san. Could be an interesting read. And what about Miss Sasato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London, and only now does it feel like we're finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? Ah, but what it lacks in windows, more than makes up with the floor, ceiling, and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yes, it tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. We'll think about it, if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself, though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to taking lodgings in the great detective's offices. To be invited to taking lodgings in the great detective's offices. Attic. I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume, I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take any long. Excuse me, it shan't take long. Somebody's happy. Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we will meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. And so, with Soseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Or 4:41 p.m. The attic room. So this, like the Fire Emblem character, is to be our new office, yes. Our office? I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you could see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place? Whoa, he looks different without his jacket. Ah, Mr. Sholmes, yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You could be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, and prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Did you leave sour cream? Of course, at the time, I had no idea the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of murk. See the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. End. Landed in London. Awarded. The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story, The Hound of the Baskervilles. A hound it was, but not so much a hound as any mortal's ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glaze. The whole of its ox-sized body was outlined in white hot flames. Clouded Kokoro. Great Departure. Alright, so we got one chapter left in this game. We are not starting it right now. I don't think I'm going to do any escapades either. You were both gone? I didn't even realize. You guys missed the end. They got a new office, right above Sherlock Holmes' office. Fleeting Farewell. Oh, I got these as well. Second-rate strings. Examine the violin before talking with Iris about the Wilson topic. Okay. Having identified the Milner response. Oh, what's in case 5? Or examine the fireplace in Mr. Sholmes' suite while with Sasato in episode 5. Okay. And there's one for these as well. A few of these have completion things. Like, all these are, episode 5 and later. This is both in the second game. Having examined the Blackboard and Sholmes' suite with Sasato and Iris in episode 4. Then the Blackboard and Sholmes' suite with Sasato and Iris having heard the Wilson topic. Oh, I had to go back and do that. I missed it. Completed the escapades. Playing the game in all available outfits. That's only in the second game you could do that. Every argument about shovels and spades. Examine the shovel with Sasato and examine the shovel with Iris. Okay. Top rung, yeah. Gonna 100% it? Yeah, I mean, it's just a text game. It's really not that hard, too. So, we could do this one. The fourth escapade unfolds one morning on Baker Street when Iris has prepared breakfast for everyone, but Ryunosuke awakes to find an envelope under his door containing a death threat. Escapade, which Sato appears to be rather irritated because it seems Ryunosuke has been buying a little too much. Okay. Mr. Natsume's room. To reveal the Japanese scholars wants a teacher of English. As much to say, okay. Should escapade about a shilling escape from the clutches of Royley and Pat Beat, who'd only just found it on the street. The pickpocket is the obvious suspect, but... These all seem like I could do them now. Like, it seems like I could do all 5 of these now. What I might do is, next stream, I might start with 2, then start the 5th case, and then maybe do another 2 the stream after that, and then another 2 on the last stream. But I am done for tonight. We are definitely not continuing on here, because this is a perfect place to stop. So tomorrow, I'll be back. Case 5, I'll start it, do a couple escapades with it. We'll get as far as we can. A couple more the day after that. And yeah, essentially this week, we're just going to finish off Ace Attorney Adventures. After that, next week, I'll probably go back to Fuga while I'm streaming. I might, because again, like I said, you know, there's going to be the big Twitch blackout next week, and because of my streaming times, I'm probably going to be doing 2 days of not streaming, Tuesday and Wednesday. So, what I might do is I might record some off-stream footage and just upload it to YouTube directly, and then come back to streaming when I'm done. Not of this game, or Fuga, not anything in progress. I think it might be No More Heroes 3 that I might do. But yeah, you all have a great evening. Thank you both for coming. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Evan, for the raid, and all the people from him for following. You all have a great evening. If you want to check out more streams, check out twitch.tv/team/wildabandon. Plenty of people streaming there right now. Excuse me. Plenty of people streaming there right now. Always good to check out the team. Thank you to anyone who also checked out the Vinesauce charity stream over the weekend. They raised a lot of money, and I definitely try to do my part towards the end of the stream as well. So, thank you all for that. Well, plenty more streams coming this week. I will raid this person that Sour Cream mentioned, sure. And you all have a great night. Goodbye.